Right, before I start, I would like to run this quick poll with you. So very quickly, in your opinion, what will the post-COVID-19 new normal look like? So you could use the link pollev.com/chekfoungtan037 to respond. Please ignore the UK text number, and alternatively, you could just type your responses via the text, and then Amanda, if you can just shout the responses to me, and then that would be great. Should we just give it like 1 minute just to type in your responses? So what do you think the post-COVID new normal will look like? Right, let's see if we have some responses. If you could just use the link, or you could just type in the messaging thing in Zoom.
We have some responses.
Yep, all right.
Remote working and also virtual team.
So we have remote working, and what else? Sorry?
Virtual team.
Virtual team. Yes, we are going into that in a minute. Anything else? So we have remote working. It seems like a big thing because even myself, we are also doing remote teaching ever since the lockdown in the UK. And then yes, we are now pretty much operate in virtual teams, and then using tools that we are using are like in terms of teaching, we're using Blackboard Collaborate. And then in terms of the tools itself, we are pretty much on Microsoft Teams. Ah, interesting. I can see some responses coming in. So we have virtual meetings. It seems that we are still surrounding around virtual. Anything else apart from remote working? So how is the new normal is going to look like? Not only just from the work perspective, but maybe from the life perspective. Do we have any other responses? Ah, I like this one. So family getting closer. Cool, because we spend more time. But the thing is, when you think of it, even like managing the whole virtual environment, and then I'm not sure how things are like in Singapore when your kids are staying at home. And then maybe you need to do some homeschooling with them as well, like some of the parents here. And then I was talking to some of the parents here. They told me that it's very, very challenging to homeschool children at home. And for them, it's another project that they have to manage. And then if you look into some of the responses here, which is quite interesting, apart from, you know, at work, now we are working in a virtual setting, but at the same time as well, you know, in our life perspective, we have to manage our family members. So it's kind of like a project management as well. Okay, so thanks for your responses. And moving on, if we look into the employment during this COVID-19, so according to Glassdoor, which is one of the world's largest job and recruiting sites, and then if you look into the job titles that are in high demands, and interestingly, we have project manager is still one of the high demand jobs, particularly in the sector of grocery and pharmacy, delivery, logistics, warehouse, and healthcare. Then how does the employment look like in Singapore? So I just did a quick search on Singapore as well. And interestingly, there are still thousands of project management related roles available during the crisis. So what this shows us is that project management is required in every sector. And in this current crisis, particularly in the three sectors that we mentioned earlier, particularly needs project managers such as grocery, delivery, logistics, and healthcare. So coming into the main discussion topic today, which is the importance of project management post the pandemic, the COVID-19. So why do we think project management remains relevant even during the crisis as well? So the way we could explain this is by using what we call an organizational onion. So in this organizational onion is an organizational analysis to study the organizational existing states from the informal, formal, and technical perspectives. And then probably you will ask me, so what does this has to do with project management? So let me get into that. So the informal here refers to the social perspective, such as culture, norms, and then like some of you have already said in a quick poll earlier as well, this pandemic is going to change some of our behavior, the way we do things, and then the way we look at things. For example, how on earth we will think of like, in the old days that we need to queue up so long in order just to get into the grocery shop to get some of the shopping or get our temperature check or even use the, the tracking app where we have to sort of like give away all our personal details, so on and so forth. So these are the new normal. So these are the new norms. So this is sort of like encapsulated in the informal layer. Then after that, the formal layer here basically refers to the rules and procedures in an organization. Then obviously technical is very straightforward, which refers to the technical system that we will put in place. Therefore, like I said, how do we actually relate this with project management? So we can use this analogy to explain how an organization should respond to this pandemic and hence understand why project management remains important. So from the informal perspective, like some of you have already said earlier, we definitely see there is a change of working culture. And it seems like the remote working culture will remain even after COVID. Okay, then from the formal perspective, we could also see, driven by the change of the culture and the norms, we could see organization changing their strategy. For example, if they used to sell in the retailer store, then they must enhance their online marketplace in order to sort of like sell more. So there's a change of strategy, a change of business processes. For example, moving the whole workforce online. How do we do that? And then obviously there are lots of ad hoc plans needs to be in place in order to manage the chaos. And then we need to maximize the resources and control the cost. Basically, it's the optimization of the current resources without having to put people on redundancy. Then obviously, here we are talking about managing the changes as well and the quality of the work. And like some of you have already said, remote working. Now we are talking about virtual team. How do we set the processes in managing this group of the virtual team? Okay, then after that, from the technical perspective, so this is where we can look into, for example, if there's any technical systems that we need to put in place in order to support the change. So for example, well, obviously now we know there are lots of tools that we could use like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and then even Google came out with some free tools as well for small businesses to use. But then the thing is, if I take us a step back and thinking about like, if we don't know about those tools, so if we know that there are changes coming, culturally or from the norm, for example, the new normal, and then we need to change the formal layer, then the next thing is we need to think about what are the technical systems that we could actually put in place in order to help us to managing the change, to help us to manage the projects, and then so on and so forth. And then if you look into this analogy from the informal, formal, and technical perspective, we are launching projects to manage the change. And then anything could be a project, as long as a project brings in a change to an organization. Then moving on to look into our MSE Applied Project Management. So obviously we talk about the informal, formal and technical layer to explain the importance of project management during and post COVID-19. So how is our course basically fits into this current climate? So first of all, we have the team dynamics and leadership module that sort of like cross over the informal and formal layer. And then this module basically helps us to understand the soft factors, the cultural factors. Most importantly is the human behavior, because this is something that I like to sort of like discuss with my students in the class. When we are managing the projects, we're not just only managing the artifacts or the deliverables. The success of a project basically lies on human. And then how do we study this type of human behavior in order to ensure that we form or launch a high performance team? Then after that, we also have the strategic portfolio management module as a strategic module. And then in this module, we try to understand combining what is happening in, informal layer, basically in the external layer, the external environment, what is happening out there. And then how do we actually encourage or justifying why do we need to have certain projects and change. And after that, we have the principle of project management. And then basically in this module, we are going to look into various methodologies in the formal layer. Basically, it's talking about the processes in managing projects and then improvised by project finance and marketing. And once we understand the nature of the projects, the consultancy and technological innovation module will come into informing how the technical systems could support projects and achieving the business IT alignment in an organization. And lastly, we have the research methods and dissertation. And then here we will deliver all various research techniques for you to apply when analyzing the social, business, technical related projects which contribute to your final dissertation. And unlike some of the professional project management methodology courses out there, you probably will heard a few as well. For example, the PMBOK, Prince, Agile, so on and so forth. What we are doing in this course is we integrate the contemporary academic theories in practical delivery. So we are not just showing you the methodology itself, but we are covering what we are aiming to do is to produce all-rounded project management professionals, not only good at the soft and the hard skills, but at the same time, the conceptual skills. And then what we meant by the conceptual skills is the ability to relate the contemporary theoretical concepts in innovating the current, not only just innovating, but challenging the current status quo of project management practice. Bring up something or come up with something that you think will work the best for yourself in your project management environment. So very quickly in the team dynamics and leadership module, we will deliver key concepts such as, like I mentioned before, culture, leadership, different team types, particularly in virtual team in this current climate, negotiation, conflict management, influencing bits and pieces about forming high performance team and knowledge management. Then moving on in strategic portfolio management, we will look into various concepts such as strategy analysis, portfolio management, information management, decision making, and strategic alignment in basically justifying why do we need to have this project in responding to the change. Then moving on, like I said before, we have principles of project management. And in this particular module, we will look into various project management methodologies such as Agile, Waterfall, Six Sigma, Kanban, Lean. So basically it's giving you a bit of introduction about various type of project management methodologies. So you can pick and choose which one that fits into your work context the best. Then, and in project finance and marketing, we will look into the fundamental understanding of financial control and management principles of different projects in different sizes and different natures. And as a project professionals, you need to be able to understand such information in order to make the right decision for your projects. And it's quite interesting every time when students look into, finance, do I really be very good in maths? Yes, in this module, there will be some calculation involved but then the thing is, you don't need to be a financial specialist or accountant, but you need to be able to understand the costing and finance perspective of a project. And at the same time as well, you will learn about how to develop and communicate the value proposition. And then why does that matter? Because clients don't commission a project just out of the blue. They want to see what sort of benefits that they could get financially and what are the values. So here we are talking about quantifying the values. And also this is about value proposition and fundamental marketing knowledge as well, because here we are combining finance and marketing. And then think about it, if we want to have a successful project, and even though the artifact is very, very good, but then if we don't get the buy-in from our end users who will be adopting the solutions or the projects or the artifacts that they will deliver in the project, and then it won't really help us to achieve the success of the project. So this is about project finance and marketing. And then moving on in the consultancy and technological innovation module. So this is where we're going to look into how technologies disrupt our daily lives. So very quick example, like we mentioned before as well, like before the pandemic, we used to go to work. And that, yeah, maybe in some of your working environment, you are dealing with some of your stakeholders, because I don't know what's your professional background, but maybe you're dealing with some of the stakeholders online, but then probably not heavily relying on, setting up a virtual team or working in a virtual team environment. But then now, if you look into the current climate, we are basically, I would say like 80 to 100% working virtually. Okay, so now we need to look into like, how do we actually, take this advantage, or look into how these disruptions actually could help us in achieving the competitive advantage of the organization. So here is a combination of disruptive innovation together with a consultancy. So here we will also look into some, consultancy business model and skills if some of you may want to set up your digital consultancy firms in the future. So research methods is our penultimate module. So here we are going to introduce you various skills such as conceptualization skills, problem solving, critical thinking, academic skills, so on and so forth. And then just a share of the experience as well. I did my MSc 10 years ago. And then for me, particularly the conceptualization skills, I find that whole process is mind-blowing, because coming from the industrial background, we usually only do what we are good at. And then because particularly working in IT, things are changing so quickly. And then I find myself sometimes just keep on using adopting what I have learned, the same practices every time when dealing with similar situations. So when I sort of like pause my industrial career for a while and then go back to do MSc, and that time I have been sort of like having an opportunity to look into different, I call them like contemporary theory in information systems, project management, and business IT alignment. And then after I finished my master's and I went back to work, to industry for a short while, then after that, I just find that the way I look at things is different. Like the way I solve the problem is different, because of the influence of all these different types of contemporary academic theory. And then lastly, so after everything that you have learned in the course, the dissertation is a place that we want to put things together. So here I always suggest like some of my students as well who are at different levels of their career. So because in this course, basically for the students, they are coming from different backgrounds. Like I have students coming from, obviously some of them are already project manager. They just come in to learn something different that are, that they have out there. And then I have students coming from hospitality, education, construction, event management, healthcare, and then so on and so forth. So when it comes to the dissertation, obviously at this stage, students have already learned about bits and pieces about, about the module and project management. So what we usually suggest students to do is to look into a project that will be impactful, that delivers practical benefits to society. And then this is not just about, polishing up your portfolio in your CV, but it's more like the impact itself. So here, for example, in this pandemic, and when it comes to dissertation, obviously you will learn about all these different modules. When it comes to different dissertation, why not do something that relates to how to better, manage a multicultural virtual team? And then you could use some of the theories, for example, from the team dynamics and leadership, module to help you to, make a difference in your current practices. And then the most exciting part about the course and in project management practices is that we give students the flexibility in terms of picking the dissertation topic that is close to their heart. So lastly, you may ask me like, okay, so after all this module, how does it really fit into the current climate? So one thing that, because this is already happening to us in the UK as well as a university, and then I could share you some of the experience that we have over here in the UK. So for example, working online, so now and also post COVID-19. So the concepts that we sort of introduced in the strategic portfolio management. So this is where we will be able to justify the project. So for example, why do we need to work online? Because there's a change in the external environment, or what will happen if we don't work online? Obviously, there will be a health and safety issue. And then what if, so it's not too much about the tutors as well, because there are various levels of stakeholders. So what will happen to students if we move it to online? Because interestingly, in the in the education sector, it's not too much about just the tutor, but we also need to think about our external stakeholders, such as our students. Do they have the facilities to go online? If they don't have the facilities to go online, what should we do? So there are lots of different things that we need to think about at the strategic level and the tactical level as well before we move, the workforce or move the students online. Then the next thing is, obviously, once we know that we want to move online, so the deliverable here is within like 2 or 3 weeks, we need to move completely online. So what are the methodologies that we need to put in here? So in terms of principles of project management, so this is where we think about our project management methodology. And then in our case, it's quite, I believe that we are quite agile. So the senior management who is managing this change, not from only the tutor perspective, but also the student perspective, we're adopting the agile principles. Then after that, in terms of team dynamics and leadership, this is where we develop and managing the project team. So here, now we are not, like I said, we are not just only talking about the internal stakeholders. Even in the internal stakeholders, we have different departments. So the academic staff, professional staff, property staff, facility staff, and then admin staff. So these are within the university. And then external stakeholders, we have students, we have partners, and then we have different courses running around the world. How do we manage that? So we need to develop an efficient project team, virtual team, helping us to do that. Then after that, managing the project costs. So obviously, by moving everything online, there will be certain costs involved. For example, obtaining more VPN or licenses for certain software. Because for some of the computing subjects, for example, because I'm in the School of Computing and Engineering, we need to get more tools in order to simulate the virtual experience for the students. So what are the costs involved? And then obviously, in terms of the marketing bit, obviously the stakeholders also know that we need to move online, but then how do we get their buy-in in terms of following the procedures? Because in project management, sometimes, I think for some of you who have implemented projects before, when it comes to the transition, I think implementation sometimes is, when you're designing and implementing an artifact, that part, is challenging, but I personally find that when it comes to the transition, that is even more challenging, because now we need to sort of like break the habits of how people used to do things, and then tell them, oh, hey, here you go, this is the way you should do things now. So what sort of level of communication and marketing, okay, that we need to do in terms of promoting the benefits of the project to various level of stakeholders. And after that, in consultancy and technological innovation, this is where we will adopt the relevant technologies for achieving the optimal results. So obviously here we are talking about different tools that we are using. And then here we're using Microsoft Teams. I think it's because it's part of the package of Office 365. But then when we are dealing with our external stakeholders, we also need to think about like what sort of tools that they are using, and then whether it sort of like fits into our GDPR policy, so on and so forth. And lastly, in terms of your research method and dissertation, and then this is where we are adopting, conceptual and analytical skills in problem solving and quantifying the results. So obviously, the way we can relate to this case study is that because when we sort of like implement or manage a project, we always have to quantify the results. This is where we are talking about the tangible and intangible results. And then in terms of the tangible results, and then usually we will have key success factors, we will have matrices, and then all of this, you could sort of like borrow some of the concepts as well from the research method module. So this is about the case study, but I'm quite happy to discuss. If you have further questions, we can sort of like talk a little bit more about that during the Q&A session. Right. So how do we deliver our teaching? So here in UWL, we adopt research-informed teaching as our learning strategy. So here, learners will be seen as participants, particularly in some of the modules. This will be heavily used, which means that in every session, we will give you something to work on. And then not particularly, just assessment, but something practical to work on, some practical case study to discuss. Okay, so you will have to participate in the activities. Then after that, we also see learners as researchers. So this is where we are hoping that, learners could look into, apart from what they already know, because I'm pretty sure that, most of you guys sitting here, you probably know a lot about your industry, and then you know a lot about the work, or if you are in project management, you probably know the practical way in doing things. But then how do we, innovate or make things even better? Because I sometimes will have this discussion with some of my students who are coming from, professional background. So some of them are even project managers. They come to the course. Then they will say, check, if things are already doing well, why do we need to change? Then I will challenge and say that, do you not think that things could be better? Have you thought about this perspective? And then if there's anything that you have learned from whichever theories in this course could help you to do that. So if it's a little bit like a maturity model, if things are already working, what we need to do from a management perspective is how do we optimize the results, or how do we make the result, achieve the most optimal values. Okay, so this is the research-informed teaching principles that we sort of like put into our teaching delivery. And after that, in terms of another learning strategy, we encourage students to work in a group because we want to simulate that experience, in project management. Basically, there won't be, really a team if it's only you yourself working on your own. And then I remember that I had this discussion with one of my freelancer students. He asked me, he said, I'm working on my own. I don't have a team. Then the next thing I asked him is, what about your client? Who pay your salary for your work? And do you not think that they are also part of the stakeholders? If the answer is yes, then that student, that freelancer student, has a team. So we will try to simulate as much as possible that kind of experience in this course. And what we usually like to do as well if we look into the weekly sessions, particularly in the seminar, we sometimes challenge the learners, challenge the students about the status quo. So for example, because we have such a great mix of students coming from different backgrounds, and then some people may say that, oh, this particular practice will work in the healthcare industry because blah, 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 blah. But somebody from retail may challenge that and saying that, oh, this may not work in my industry because of blah, 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 blah. So we tend to simulate that kind of discussion. So it's not just about the tutors giving you, oh, these are the theories, these are the practices, so on and so forth, but it's more like, you know, having those kind of discussions in class. And we have lots of debates, as you can see in the pictures as well. Some students are being, you know, have a group discussion with the tutors about a topic, the weekly topic that we have. And then some students are doing some role play. That's why they're dressing up to be a consultant, and then so on and so forth. And the fun part is obviously in order to make, you know, a very stimulating environment for the students as well. I think it's very important that we play. So we use games sometimes to help the learners to understand and reflect the concept. Okay, so it could be various different types of games. And then I think in particularly in certain modules, we play a lot in order to reflect rather than just, you know, giving you a textbook and you learn about the theories and then so on and so forth. So these are some of the innovative way we sort of like design our course. And obviously upon graduation, no matter what is your professional background, before joining the course, we obviously hope our students will equip with the specialist knowledge about project management techniques, tools, and the current contemporary research on project management. So this is something that you could look at if you are interested. There is a journal called International Journal of Project Management, although it is an academic journal. But then if you look into the nitty-gritty, like the papers published in that journal, most of them are very practical. So those researchers usually are a combination of academic researchers and practitioners. So they are using the real life, sort of like using the academic theories to solve a real life problem. So which is very interesting. So hopefully if you are interested, you can have a look into this journal. And then we heavily, you know, use this journal as well in our modules. And then we also hope that you could apply this specialist knowledge to the analysis of the work, a range of work based on different situations. And obviously, hopefully as well, as you all have already said, virtual team, managing virtual team. And then what are some of the things that you could pick up from the course in order to enhance your career prospects. So it's sometimes based on my sort of like 10, 15 years experience in this country as well, is that sometimes it's not too much about, whether you know how to use the tool, so on and so forth, but they want to see what is the impact. For example, what is the impact of after or knowing about the tool, and then how do you create an impact and benefits to an organization. And then lastly, we also hope that students could adopt the transferable lifelong learning strategies that may be used to continue in advancing your knowledge and understanding and developing your new skills to a higher level. So some of our graduates, after they finish, they thought that they want to pursue more, to learn more about certain theories that we sort of like teach in this module, and eventually they pursue a PhD after that. Okay, right. So lastly, I just would like to share, this is the last part of my presentation or discussion, so I hope I don't bore you. So just would like to share a few of my students' testimonial. So as you can see, Mathieu. So Mathieu used to be a supervisor at the construction site, and he changes his career entirely after taking the course. And he is now a project consultant providing project management training. And one thing interesting about him is that he doesn't live in London. So during that time, he used to drive 1.5 hours to 2 hours to the classes in London, depending on the traffic. And then he was always the first one to arrive at 9 o'clock in the morning for the classes. And sometimes it's even earlier than those who live in London. So we suppose he must be enjoying the classes so much. Then we have our lovely Elena here. So Elena now, she's living in UAE. So her background is hospitality. She used to be a chef. I think while she was doing our course that time, she is also managing a full-time job, working, designing the flight catering menu for British Airways. And then after she did the course, then after that now she got a job as a senior chef. And then she also manages like 500 chefs in Emirates Airline Catering. That's why she moves to UAE with her partner. And then what particularly excites her in this course is, like she said here as well in the testimonial, is the cultural theory that she picked up from the team dynamics module. And then now she's enjoying it and applying it every single bit, of this theory in her job in the UAE. Then we also have Annie, another interesting testimonial, because Annie is now, I think she set up her own project management coaching business after graduating. I think her dissertation is something to do with coaching that time. And then she enjoys the thinking and writing process so much from the course. And then she went on publishing a few books in the project management. So you guys could check it out as well in Amazon. Her name is Annie Benu, and then the book is called Anything is a Project. And together as well, both me and her, we also published her dissertation in the Journal of Modern Project Management. So it's kind of an achievement for her. And then lastly, we have Mohammed. So Mohammed is the most senior student we ever have in the course. His dedication is amazing. And he's a business owner. And he is now applying what he has learned in the course in his current business and his daily life. Right, that's all from me. So as I said before, I'm a practitioner turned academic. Therefore, I usually will discuss my experiences working in organizations that you see in the right panel of this slide with my students. And then some of the experience have in fact we built it into part of the learning materials. So I'm happy to stay connected. And so these are my contact details if you would like to know more about the course or how the course could potentially help you in terms of developing your career. Cool. Any questions?
We have one question in the chat from Sam. Yep.
Yeah.
Is project management more relevant for IT and engineers?
Yes. So project management, like I said before, anything could be a project, and it is a very multidisciplinary course. So what we are delivering here are the generic bits and pieces about project management, but they're not about only just about the methodologies, like I said, but we cover the 3 layers, the informal, formal, and technical. And then what you would also benefit from this course as well, because the students who come to this course usually are coming from different backgrounds as well. So like I said before, for example, I used to have a group which is, very diverse, the background. Like I have students coming from hospitality, education, what else? Education, retail, construction. And then in the class, like I said, we are using the collaborative and active learning. So sometimes when students debating about a concept by using their industry as an example, this is where students, for example, yourself, you're coming from IT and engineering background, then you could also grasp, for example, oh, this is how things work in retail. So if I want to implement an IT project in retail, these are the norms that I probably should consider. So the answer, a short answer to this question is yes, it's applicable to any field, including the IT and engineering as well. Any other questions?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We have another question from Shirley.
Mhm.
How would this be relevant for someone who wants a career change?
So is it Charlie?
Shirley.
Shirley, sorry, my fault. So Shirley, so it depends on what career you're looking for. So obviously, project management is something that it basically opens lots of doors for you. So one of the notable examples that I could share with you is Mathilde. So Mathilde came from a construction background, you know, supervising a group of builders in a construction site. But he is now a project management consultant, conducting training or providing consultancy services to organizations. So a short answer to this is a career change is possible, but I would like to see know more about what career that you are thinking to tap into, because obviously the graduates from our course can go into obviously any project management settings. So if, for example, if those who come in as already a project manager, for example, I have a student who worked as a quality manager for years. Then after that, he came in here to do project management. And then the beneficial part for him, he is still staying as quality manager. He's not changing his career or what. But the thing is, some of the concepts in terms of, for example, managing the virtual team, sort of like, because he sort of like put that into his dissertation, and then after finish with us, he managed to get a job that is from, you know, the local setting to the multinational settings. So this is one of the example. And then in terms of, for example, where students could go to. So for example, some students who are more interested in terms of, you know, business analysis, like in the IT field, but then not doing the technical implementation, but then more interested into studying the IT trend, gathering requirements for if you're talking about software development, and then so on and so forth. We do have a few students who sort of like changed from hospitality into those kind of settings in NHS, the National Health Service in the UK. And then some of them are business owners. So that one probably not too much about the career change in that sense. But in general, I could say is it will open more doors for you if you are interested in something in IT. Like I said, about the trend, about the strategy perspective, you could tap into that. Or you could, if you haven't got any project management sort of like experience, like some of my students who sort of like joined the course straight away from their undergraduates, and then what they managed to find after they sort of like finish is project analyst role. So it's like working in the project management office, but instead being a project manager, they start off their career as a project analyst. I hope I answer your question. Any other questions?
Okay. Shirley says thank you. And okay, we have one from Nas. He's asking, what is the passing rate of the part-time students who enroll in this program?
Passing rate, right. I'm very glad to sort of like announce that all our students pass. And then I think as particularly for the part-time students as well, this is just, you know, a sharing of thoughts. I think for part-time students, they are more determined comparing to the full-time students, because they know exactly what they want to do. And then because they are also juggling around their work commitments, so on and so forth. So based on our sort of like the part-time students, the achievement, I haven't got any students who fail. It depends on how great they pass, put it in this way. Have I answered your question, Lars?
Yeah, he got it. Okay, any other questions? Okay. We have one from Mr. Lee. He's asking if you would be able to share a bit more about the University of West London.
Oh, University of West London. I need to pull out my fact sheet. This is us, as you can see. I think I can drop you a link about our facts later. So obviously, let's have a look. Sorry, I'm not very good in terms of the facts. University of West London. I think we did pretty well in terms of some of the, just bear with me.
Okay, maybe while Dr. Fong is pulling out some details, I can also share a bit from what I know.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
So the Masters in Project Management is actually under the School of Computing. Okay, and they are actually ranked number 12 in London for computer science.
Yeah, this is a very good achievement in terms of the ranking of the school. And then I think we get best satisfaction from students as well. But I just want to be, to make sure everything is correct, what I say. So if you can see my screen. So yeah, so in the ranking, the Sunday Times Good University ranking, we have been ranked in 52. And then we have a very diverse background. Yeah, I think the student satisfaction rate, we are one of the top modern university in London in terms of overall satisfaction. I think the university put a lot of emphasis as well in terms of student satisfaction. So that's why we invest a lot in terms of the learning, the teaching and learning. So like what I sort of shared with you, Mr. Lee, before, is that here we are using, for example, research-informed teaching, we are using active and collaborative learning, and also gamification. So all of this basically is we would like students to sort of like do something different compared to the very traditional ways in the classroom teaching. So obviously we hope to be able to go back to the classroom in September, but still this university basically invests a lot in terms of improving or ensuring students get the top satisfaction in terms of their learning experience. So this is the university part in terms of learning and teaching, but from the tutor part as well, particularly in our postgraduate courses and in my course, Applied Project Management, you will see all our tutors somehow have years of experience in working in the industry before coming into, turning into academic. I think probably certain thing that I could share with you as well is, because sometimes students will ask me, so you are a professional, working professional, you're in industry, what makes you come to academia? And then I would say what I like is to keep on researching new things. And then now we are not just talking about, because sometimes when we talk about academic research, people will think, oh, you're talking things from the blue sky, but we are not doing that in our course and in our uni as well. Because if you look into our uni, we call ourselves a career university. So apart from teaching, all our research are very practice-based. So that's something that motivates me into becoming an academic, and also using my past experiences as well, working in different industry. And I want to see what academic could offer me, and then what this could help in improving the project management practices, and hence we then integrate it into the learning materials. So not only just me doing that, but then my colleagues as well, we are doing the same thing. But I think I could share this fact sheets with you, Mr. Lee, if that helps. Right, any other questions?
Okay, we have one question, the same question actually from two of our participants,
Yeah.
Daniel and also Jeffrey. So they are asking how is the Masters in Project Management compared to the PMP certification? So like what are the differences? Yeah.
Right, in terms of the differences, so I'm not sure whether you guys have the experience taking those classes before, because I did took those classroom training for Prince 2 before, and there's another certification here in the UK which is called Association. It's offered by the Association of Project Management. Then what is the difference between our course with those short-term professional courses is that those courses will focus more on the methodology. So if let's say that you are already in the field for many, many years, and then you just want to get a certification to sort of like put in your portfolio, and then probably then you can get that in a very short period of time. I think the classroom teaching 5 days, then some of the providers even guarantee a pass for you. But my personal experience is that sometimes they cram so much on us about the methodology, so on and so forth. And now obviously we need to study a little bit in terms of in passing the test. But how do we actually apply those knowledge in the field? That is a different story. Okay. And then comparing to a master's course like this one, obviously it will take you a bit longer. It's about 10 months, I think, for the Aventis delivery for you to do it. So obviously here you will give yourself not only just absorbing what the knowledge is, but you will have time to test yourself and reflect on your workplace as well. Because I believe that most of you, if you join the course, you will join in a part-time, and then you will still have a full-time career on the side. And then what you will see different things is basically in every session you pick up some knowledge, and then you can go back and say, okay, if there's something that I could apply immediately, and then you will have that time to sort of like reflect. And then sometimes, because I do get students here as well asking me the same question, so I do understand, for example, certain jobs, they want to see whether you have a Prince 2, for example, in the UK, or an Agile certification, okay? And then what we also find out as well in the job market, although sometimes you do have those certificates, but it won't necessarily guarantee you for a job if you haven't got the experience in implementing those methodologies, or those, for example, the principles. Whereas doing a master's, what the job markets or employers, they do know that master's is a completely different level, because now we are not just talking about cramping so much about the principles in 5 days, for example, then do the test. But then we are talking about now you have to pass a series of modules. And then in this course as well, you will see like 2 assessments at least per module. So you're talking about 12 assessments. And then those 12 assessments are really going to test your knowledge in terms of your writing skills, your critical thinking skills, and then so on and so forth. So that's why the employers, when they look into those who have got a master's degree, the way they weigh the qualifications is slightly different. So comparing to, for example, somebody who got those professional certificates but never really understand or apply any of that, because you must be able to tell what is the impact that you create by having those certificates. If you are just having the certificate, you put it there, for example, you are a PMP, PMBOK certified project manager, but it won't really give you that weighting comparing to somebody, for example, passing a master's distinction, and then you can show what you have done in the course. This is something that I keep telling my students as well, do something impactful in your dissertation, because your dissertation is something, for example, if you're really interested in terms of improving sort of like relationship about project teams members, virtual team, multicultural team, And then if you can come up with a concept that is so impactful based on what you have learned in the module, you put it in your dissertation, you test the concept, you have a proof of concept, then this is where, if you want to get into, for example, something more about stakeholder management, those kind of role, this is something that you could say, okay, this is what I have done, and this is the impact, and I tested it in my workplace that time, and then it proves that this is working. Then it's sort of like weigh a little bit more compared to you know, just having the professional certificates. So obviously here we are not saying that the professional certificates are not good, but it serves different purpose. So if you are already a project management professional, like for example, the quality manager I mentioned to you guys earlier, he is a PMBOK certified project manager, but then he joined the course because he would like to get a different weighting comparing to others, you know, who are working in the same level as him. So most of his colleagues also have already got a PMBOK, but then what makes him stand out? So if others haven't got a master's and he has a master's, so he has slightly the advantage compared to others. And then if you haven't sort of like, if you're not quite sure whether, you know, what sort of like career you would like to do in the future, or you're thinking about moving into project management, by doing this course will give you the fundamentals to tap into the door of the employer. And then when you get a job that you like in project management, and then you can gradually see, for example, there are sort of like all those different type of certifications out there, then you can see which one that you think is the most suitable for yourself, and then you can grow from there. I hope I answer your question. Is it, this question is coming from, is it?
Yep. Daniel and Jeffrey.
Daniel, sorry. Sorry, I'm writing your name down as well. So I'll try to remember. Yep.
Okay. We have a question from Mr. Tan Cheng Yon. If this program is recognized by MOM. Okay, maybe I can answer this instead. Okay, so in Singapore Ministry of Manpower, actually they don't do official recognition of any universities. Okay, they have a sample list, but it is not the full list that they have. So actually, if the university itself is recognized by the country's government, it usually have no issues over here. Okay, so instead, maybe I can put it this way. UWL with Aventis, we are recognized by the Singapore government under CPE. So if that can answer your question, whether it's recognized by the Singapore government. Okay, so maybe we have time for just one more question. Any more? Nope, doesn't seem like it. Okay, then in that case, Dr. Tan, anything else to add?
No, it's lovely speaking to you all, and thank you very much for your time. And then if you need further information, you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and then just drop me a note, and then I'll try my very best to get back to every single queries that you have.
Okay. Okay, Ken. Then yep. Okay. All right. So thank you everyone for coming over here to spend this 1 hour with us, and also thank you to Dr. Chekfoung Tan for conducting this session. I hope that all of you have a better idea now of project management and its applications, especially towards a variety of industries. Okay, so what I will be doing is I will be sending out a follow-up email with a bit more details about the program and also the universities, since we do have quite a few questions about that. Okay, so you can find out more in my follow-up email. Then at the same time, if there are any other questions that you have about the program or on project management and also how it would be applicable to you, feel free to reach out to us anytime. All right. Okay, so thank you everyone. Have a good night.